I used my time before this podcast to play a different game that came out this morning.
Oh, yeah?
Was maybe a little more underwhelming. Check out the Control Ultimate Edition a little bit. I know Jeff also.
Cool.
You played it on both? Is that right?
Yeah.
I downloaded it on the Xbox, the Series X, to check that stuff out so they added what? It's two modes. It's performance and graphics. Is that the? It's maybe not the best. It's not quite Dirt 5. Not quite Dirt 5.
You want graphics or do you want performance?
It's not quite the best language, but they do, at least they do give you pretty clear explanation of like, hey, this one runs at 60 FPS, this one runs at 30 with ray tracing. So they're at least,
and it's very visible, as far as the frame rate is concerned.
It's not
really,
it doesn't
the 30
feel very smooth.
No, it feels like there are parts of that where you're like turning the camera and it almost feels like stop motion animation or something. It just is stuttery. It's not that it's evenly stuttery. It's a very locked at 30 kind of stutter, but there's just something about it that struck me as like, this looks way worse than a lot of other locked at 30 games.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I tried turning motion blur on and off, trying to see like, well, what the hell's going on here? Because with motion blur off, I thought it was way worse or way more noticeable. But even with motion blur on, that game's about a year and a half old now, right? That was a summer game. So I don't know. I guess I had hoped that this version of the game would just run well, and look and have all the bells and whistles. But at 30, I think the movement feels pretty bad. Like there's just a latency to the movement. That I think is there across the board in that game in different ways, but it feels a lot worse at 30. Just the shooting and aiming and all that other stuff I thought felt pretty bad.
Totally. In fairness to this game, I mean, you played it on the PC the first time, right? Like, yep. I've played through this game on the One X my first time through, and like what you're describing is extremely consistent with those versions of the game. Totally. I also played half of it on the PS4 Pro, and like both versions on those consoles were not great performance wise, and it translated to the feel of the shooting and stuff, like you were saying. Like it hits that game hard, but like the 60 FPS,
yes,
the 60 FPS mode is good on this thing because like it's there's no ray tracing, but like still plenty of nice looking reflections and all that stuff. Like it still is a very good looking version of the game, and it runs at 60. Like that's probably the only actual way to play that version,
and that's the way it seems to default to. It seems to default to that. At least it did for me. And I guess that's the system setting. So maybe on PS5 they're no, because Xbox did the same. It defaulted to performance, so they know. It's just disappointing, right? I mean, like if ray tracing is supposed to be a thing that matters, and we're getting games that are a year and a half old coming to these systems, and they can't do both without, it's like each mode has its compromises, and if we can't bridge that gap with games that are not even like new to these platforms, that's a bummer. I guess maybe if they were designing for these platforms from the get-go, then that's a whole different story, and then maybe they could have gotten there that way. So it's not a perfect example, but I love Control. It is an amazing game, and I think playing it at 60, like it still looks really nice. It moves a lot better, obviously, at 60, and it holds that frame rate pretty well on both Series X and PS5. There's a little bit of controller stuff on PS5 on the shooting and stuff like that, like not as extreme as Call of Duty. You get like the Astro's Playroom, like vibration on footstep. That's actually kind of nice. But I don't know. Control was the first game on the PC with ray tracing that I played and went, oh fuck, this is like a big deal. Because of like just had the reflections and how just cool. It's a very dark game. It's a very moody game, and how that comes across. I thought that they did that better than a lot of the ray tracing enabled games I had seen before that. So to see this experience feel compromised on consoles that are supposed to be able to do ray tracing and supposed to be able to do this stuff, it's like, well, all right, what are we going to get over the next 5 years? What are we looking at here?
The unfortunate reality is that the ray tracing hardware in these consoles is AMD's first stab at ray tracing. Their equivalent graphics cards just came out, and they don't do it very well either, unfortunately. So that's what we're stuck with, unless there's and me playing Pro on PC, and me playing it on PC, I'm playing it on a G-Sync monitor that's going to really lessen any of those frame rate dips and that I did get
in that game for sure. When I played it on PC, you know, it really helped with that. Because this PC is not some beat. You know, I have a 2080 in here, and it's fine. It's a great card, but like his CPU is getting older and older and older. It's not some amazing beast of a machine, but it still ran it better than those consoles did.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, that's it's not the perfect thing. It is not. Let's say it's not the ultimate edition of Control. It's not.
No,
no. I hope that they eventually get to. This is the ultimate edition, and boy, it runs outstanding. You know, like no compromises.
That's PS5 Pro. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Is this a new purchase? Like if you own it on the old console?
Dude, there is such a fucking can of worms about this game. Like I don't even know where to start with it. Like because there's like the thing I want to bitch about is the save game or lack of save game transfer. But like honestly, I think the bigger affront to people is that they have. Well, where do you start? Okay, first of all, yes, it is a new purchase. Like if you owned original Control and the DLC for Control, if you bought all that stuff separately, you don't just get this. Ultimate Edition still a separate purchase, even if you own all of the content that is in Ultimate Edition, which was $40. Is that right? When it came out, was it $40?
I believe that's right.
I think that's right. And I don't think they offered an upgrade path, right? You couldn't just like pay $10 if you owned all the content and like upgrade Ultimate. You had to just buy it outright.
Yeah, I don't believe they did any of that either. But
the thing that people are super mad about is that on the PS5, it's on Plus this month.
Oh, you're kidding! Did
they have been taking?
They've been taking pre-orders for months.
Fall. I mean, they sold Ultimate Edition on PS4, saying like, "Hey, free upgrade to PS5." So like, tons of people bought it on PS4, expecting to just get that PS5 upgrade. In fact, I believe it was on sale on PS4 last month, is what I saw people saying. So like, the point is, like, for months, people have been buying this Ultimate Edition, waiting for this upgrade. And now that it's here, they're giving it away to Plus members, which is most people. That's so wild. A whole bunch of people are very upset that they went and paid for it.
And they're not getting
refunds at this time.
Yeah, we got emails from people saying like, yeah, I bought it a month or two ago, and now they're saying, oh, it's been too long since you bought it, so you can't have a refund.
Because at one point that was also a launch game. Like we received review codes for that game back at the console launch, and then the game got delayed, and so the codes just never started working.
Yeah, we got the codes with them
until
saying,
now.
Like, here you go. Like here is a review code for these PS5 and Series X versions of Control that then didn't come out on time.
Yeah, so it was a super last minute delay. Like they were, so you had people who were like, "Well, I'm getting a PS5, so I'm going to buy it right now," and then like, "Oh, I guess I have to wait." And just a weird clusterfuck. The save thing, they're saying that there was a lot of engine changes between the old console versions and the new console versions that make it hard for them to bring saves over.
Dude, like they may have announced that a while back and I just missed it, but like right up until I think yesterday when you mentioned it to me, I thought my save was going to come right in because you can't play the DLC from the menu of that game.
You cannot. You're right.
There is no option to just, hey, I want to play these DLC episodes. And from what I understand, I think you have to be like halfway through the game at least to get access to it. And
probably something like that. Yeah.
I played through it on the One X and loved it. And I was like, oh, I'll wait until that next gen version's out to play that DLC, assuming I could just pick my save up and go, but nope. And like, there are worse uses of your time than playing through Control again. Sure. I guess. Like if I was gonna have to replay a game, like it's
I don't want to play it again because I love Control, but
I finished that game and very nearly just turned around and started over. Like I liked it so much. So like maybe not the end, but at this point, maybe I'll just play it on PC if I'm gonna have to replay it to get to the DLC. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a rough situation.
Yeah, it's that game deserves better for sure.
Yeah.
And
that's.
But at the same time, I will say that, like, hey, as a PlayStation Plus game, if you remove all of that bullshit, the pre-order, like the people, if you remove all the people that have gotten very clearly fucked along the way, the notion that Control is a game that you can just kind of get to and play on, I believe they put the old version, the old console version, on Game Pass, but maybe not this new version. And then
Control, I believe Control Ultimate Edition. Series X. I'm trying to confirm which version of Control is on Game Pass.
I thought the idea was that the PS5 version was on PS Plus, but over on Xbox they were only getting
the last gen. I believe that's the
last gen version.
That's what I'm seeing here. I think that's right. Yes.
And then in some territories, for PlayStation Plus, they're only getting the PS5 version of Control, and they're not getting the PS4 version. It's weird. But they're getting some other game in its place. I forget what is it, Bugsnax or no, they're not. They already got Bugsnax. Some other game. Control's a great game.
Control's great.
DLC kind of.
I was just about to say I do hear predominantly that the DLC was maybe not as great. So
it's more Control, that's cool. But like I only played the first one, the Foundation, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Supposedly the Alan Wake one.
The Alan Wake fan.
So it's not fantastic from what I've heard.
I read the plot of the Alan Wake one and just kind of shook my head at it with what the kind of inferences about the world of Alan Wake and the world of Control. But that's me as someone who is not a big Alan Wake supporter. So maybe that's coloring that. But
yeah. But I mean, like Control, like so much of the value of Control to me is uncovering that central mystery slowly over the course of the game and the way that they tease it and lay it out in pieces and stuff. So like, without that, like the action's awesome. Like it's got a bunch of fun physicsy psyops shit in it, but without that core conceit, I don't know.
I'm excited to play it because I played maybe 2 hours of it and I ran into that thing with the frame rate just in the combat. It just it was annoying me and I bounced off. This is
oh dude, if you have not played all, you should really play Control if you haven't played it.
Yeah, it's like a treat. Second.
It is. I think that's got to be. Well, gosh, I don't know. That may be my favorite Remedy game.
It's definitely mine.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what are the other contenders? Like
Max Payne 1 or 2?
1 and 2 are both.
Yeah,
like 2 is like the rare sequel that's like maybe better than the first one.
3 is the best.
Well,
I didn't like 3. I don't know. Like 3 really rubbed me the wrong way across the board. Like
that might qualify as a hot take. I don't know.
And I like Health, but it just didn't. The soundtrack didn't. Everything.
Do you like Health and Man on Fire? Because do I have the video game for you?
Yeah, for sure.
That's the fucked up thing. Is yes and yes, but still somehow Max Payne 3 was just like.
Yeah. You can always listen to the soundtrack. It's real good.
Yeah. In fairness, Remedy or Max Payne 3, not a Remedy game that was Rockstar. So
yeah, for sure.
What is it? Alan Wake, Quantum Break. That's kind of it. And then Control.
Death Rally, the driving game.
Right, of course.
That's a sick game. I mean, don't get me wrong. That game's great.
I think Control is the best Remedy game.
Was it American Nightmare? What was his?
Yeah, it was a spinoff. I think they might have come out at some point and said like, "Hey, this started as a prototype for a sequel or something like that," but it ended up being an XBLA game that's like 3-4 hours long or something.
I remember that being okay.
It's pretty bite size. It's got like a weird time loop thing going on. It's kind of interesting, but it's pretty bite size. So yeah, Control. I'm calling it. Control is the best Remedy game.
Yeah, it really. Yeah, I mean, it makes good on. I feel like the stuff that Quantum Break fumbled, like both narratively and from a gameplay perspective, I think Control was the game where they went like, let's lock this down and make it way better. I think that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. Also, they traded. I mean, Quantum Break was like weird Illuminati stuff, right? Kind of, and then Control traded that out for the supernatural SCP stuff.
Right.
Way more
about
like Quantum Break is such a blur. I remember playing that game before it came out, and just the pacing of like, I'm gonna play a couple hours of like middling shooter content and then have to set the controller down to watch this like very fucking overwrought TV show thing. Just
right.
Fuck, dude. It was so much. It was way too much. It was like, none of this is good enough to be worth it, what you've done here. I get Microsoft had ambitions on a storytelling front, but boy, this is the bad direction for video games. Unless you can nail both of those parts extremely well.
Or even one, like even if a good story will like drag you through monotonous gameplay, but it was just like, it was never worth it, right? You get
totally.
Yeah.
And they didn't, you could eventually, I think at launch, you couldn't just download the videos. You had to stream them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot because it was all like, it was kind of choose your own adventure, wasn't it? Like
a little bit. Yeah. You would change some stuff as you went. And so it was streaming video that didn't always look outstanding. And then like when I was playing it, I think some of this was pre-release and some of it was post, but like sometimes the stream would die and you're like, oh, I got to watch this 20 minutes over again because I have to make these decisions and it won't just let me. It was fucking wild. It was wild.